Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. So we want to talk a little bit about taking care of yourself and what does that look like and what does that mean. So the first thing we're going to sort of try to identify is what exactly does stress mean? We have a little picture of a snow globe there that kind of depicts when we have all kinds of sort of crazy thoughts going on in our life and our brain is kind of on overload and overdrive, it's like being in a virtual snow globe. And it's very difficult and very challenging to try and be able to settle our thoughts and be able to approach situations in a more positive manner. So when we talk about taking care of yourselves, we're talking about how do we sort of tame down that snow globe and allow things to settle. So stress itself is that feeling that we get when we don't feel like we are in control or that we don't feel like our needs are being met. And when we do feel that we are not capable of handling or coping with the situation at hand. So our stress goes up and our problem-solving ability goes down. Do you want to add anything to that, Michelle?
I think it was a great depiction. I think in just in general, when you are in that snow globe, things seem overwhelming. And when things settle and you step back, it's like, oh, actually, was it that bad? Or do I have better problem solving skills when everything's settled? So that is something that this visual really kind of helps you see when I'm in a snow globe, even when my child is in a snow globe, or we're both in snow globes trying to communicate, it's really tough to make good choices and stay calm in the moment. So that's what today is about, because when we can settle our snow globe, and some of us actually don't know how to settle our snow globe, so we're going to be talking about some ideas, we can think a lot clearly. And hopefully your snow globe will not be shaken up too often, because we're going to be working on our self-care, right?
Absolutely, making that time.
Mm-hmm.
So coping with stress. So why do we bother with even trying to take care of ourselves? And Michelle and I have been doing this for a really long time, and even without people, sort of visibly being in the room here with us, we can hear what you're saying is that, I'm that single mom, or I'm overloaded. I have, so many kids and my husband's working long hours or I have long hours, and it can be a real struggle to try and fit this in. And sometimes we just, put ourselves a lot lower on that meter of, where's the priority for us. But there's a lot of factors that play into this, why we need to take that time. And part of that is that it allows you to build connection with your child. If you're, flipping out all the time and you're stressed, you're not going to be an in-charge parent. There's going to be a lot of, sort of, just sort of coming at them with stuff, bombarding them with a lot of rationale that they're not listening to. So you want to be able to be dealing with your stress and actually sort of role modeling that for your kids as well. And that helps you to build that connection with your child so that you're better able to cope, you're better able to enjoy life. Problems are still going to be there, but you're in a better place to be able to try to problem solve. They're not going to necessarily have the same level of intensity if you're able to sort of take that step back and pause. And hopefully by doing this, you'll actually feel a little bit more energized again, which kind of comes full circle. If you feel a little bit more energized as a parent, it's going to help build that connection with your child even deeper.
Absolutely. Well said. So we have a few ideas here for what self-care looks like. Right now in social media, or I'm seeing some commercials about what self-care looks like. And sometimes self-care can look very expensive and time-consuming. Not everybody can afford a trip. Not everybody can afford to go to the spa. And is it really about these extravagant kind of things? Well, they are lovely. I will not say no to the spa or to go get my nails done, but that doesn't happen every day. And we're talking about things that can happen every day. So what does that look look like for you? And sometimes we forget what that looks like for us because we're so caught up in the hustle and bustle of every day. It just is looking at 5 minutes a day, right? So when was the last time you read a book just for fun? You can download the mandalas or the coloring sheets, put them on the coffee table. I bet you everybody will start coloring. It could be something really simple that you do some journaling. Bullet journaling is huge. Taking a bath instead of a shower, going for a walk and getting into nature. Especially now, we really don't see the sunshine very much. Can you get outside? Can you, enjoy a little bit of fresh air? Maybe parking your car a little bit farther away. So it's not big things. It's those little things that add up that help, and it's putting it in your routine every day and putting those reminders out there. And how do you make that happen? And I think making it part of your routine is really important. You may not be able to do it every day, but I challenge you to do something for yourself 5 minutes a day. And that could just be sitting and enjoying your coffee without folding laundry and then checking your email, getting the kids ready for the day. Take that 5 minutes, but that might mean that you have to get up 10 minutes early to do that.
So we have a poll question to hopefully you guys can sort of chime in to just answer, when was the last time that you did something relaxing or fun for yourself? We have some examples for you, today, this week, this month, in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months. So let's see where you guys are. I don't see a lot of today's.
Yeah, but this week, 50%.
This
That's really
week is
good.
good. Yeah,
You guys are doing well already.
absolutely. That's fantastic, because a lot of times what we hear from people is it's that, it's that, this month or even longer, or it's we took that vacation to Cuba, but we don't have anything else on the go for the rest of the year. This really is about that accumulative build, doing stuff every day like Michelle was talking about. It's that 5 minutes, that 10 minutes. And how do you look for those spots in your day? We're going to talk a little bit about time wasters later on in our presentation, but it really is thinking about where can we start to claw back a little bit of that time so we can start to add some things in. Seeking balance. So, everybody's life is crazy, but we have to sort of realize what are those important things in our life, right? You have a handle on the various elements of your life when you're in balance, and you don't feel that your heart or your mind is being pulled too hard in any direction. More often than not, you feel calm, grounded, clear-headed, and motivated. I'm not sure how everybody feels about that. If they feel like they're in balance, more than likely probably out of balance. So it's going to be a lot of looking at what are those areas of your life and what are the priorities? Where are the hot spots that you want to maybe pay a little bit more attention to? So we're going to show you a diagram of something that Michelle's going to explain a little bit further.
So when you want to look at things, and balance is perception as well, right? So it's going to look a little bit different for you than it may be for your friend. And some people need a little more TLC and others maybe not so much. So you want to look at what is actually draining me of my energy. There is a lot of time suckers, energy drainers that get in the way, and it's really tough to feel like you're feeling balanced. So for example, energy drainers. negative thinking. If you've got a lot of negative thinking going on, I can't do this. I've tried that before. It doesn't work. My kids are the most difficult ones, or I have a job that I don't like, and it just is ongoing with the negative thinking. It's hard to even look at your life in a positive way. Who are you hanging out with? Sometimes we hang out with people that actually don't fill our cup. And even having a disorganized life, right? That chaos causes chaos for you, for your children, for your family. If you can't, find your phone in the morning, your kids can't find their boots to save their lives, that causes a lot of stress. And then in the morning, you're just got all this, piling of stress. And then the negative thinking comes in. And what about sleep? You're supposed to be getting at least 7 hours of sleep. Hands up if you're getting more than 7 hours of sleep. And if you're not, you can't think straight, right? And doing everything for everyone else. It should be about team, family, and delegating. Even a 2-year-old can help out. They can put something in a bin, and there's little bits and pieces that we want to teach our children. If we're constantly doing everything, then we do feel overwhelmed. So energy lifters are things that don't always cost money, like getting yourselves organized, learning to say no, thank you. And no can be one sentence, and that's a sentence. The full sentence is no. You don't have to justify everything you're doing. Getting that sleep,
Absolutely.
laughing and connecting. Everything is about connection. Even when our children are acting out, they're looking to connect and attach with us. And how about you? When we get stressed out, we tend to isolate ourselves. We tend to say no to going out and doing things. We just feel very overwhelmed. But being able to get out, to go for a walk, to call a friend, those things kind of lift you up, but we forget about them. And like I said before, working together as a team, it shouldn't be just mom or just dad or just grandma doing everything in the home. It should be that we're all working together, and that might look a little bit different because you've got different ages and stages and abilities, but all of this takes time and it takes organization, but in the end, it will help.
Well said, Michelle. So we have a diagram for you, and I understand that you guys can make this a little bit larger on your screen. You can find this image if you just Google it as well. It's just abundance wheel, so it's an image on Google that you can readily find. They have various different ones. It's kind of what it does is it looks at all of those different sections of your life. So it has finances, giving back, family, travel, relationships, love. And what you do with this is you kind of consider the center where the 1 is at the lowest point. And then you work your way up to a 10. And what you're going to do is evaluate for yourself, how fulfilled does your life feel in that actual category? And what you're going to do is you're going to reflect on that afterwards and say, okay, maybe some of these spots are lower, and that's where I'm going to maybe set some goals. So we did an example. So the ones that were really kind of low, that's where I can't tackle all of that at one time. And I'm not necessarily going to try and make it up to a 10 either. But how do I work at maybe setting some small goals and bringing it up maybe 1 or 2 notches? And when we talk about setting goals, we talk about what is it that I need to have in place to actually make it happen. Because we are very good at setting goals, but we're also not so great at following through because we haven't done that planning to put into place the actual things that we need.
And I think this is a good way to kind of look at what is going well in my life and what needs a little more help. Some people, in the past when we've had them do this in group, they're kind of like, oh man, my numbers are so low. It's not meant to put you down or make you feel like you're failing. It's just meant for you to look at things from a different perspective and say, what am I doing well and what can I start with? Because maybe lifting, getting a little more piece of that pie is going to help because the one piece of my pie that's a little bit
I lost Michelle.
low. I pressed a button by accident. Sorry. Can everybody hear me okay?
Okay, that's okay. I've got you back.
Yeah. I don't know what I did.
That's okay. My
So how
lip
do we
reading
get
skills have not been brought up.
so how do we get that piece of pie back, right? So instead of looking at it as a failure, say, what can I work towards, and having those steps. So adventure and fun might have looked different for me 10 years ago. What does adventure and fun look like for me now? And is there anything free that I can do or in my community? And maybe I can start saving towards something a little more fun that's a little more expensive, but in the here and now, what do I do while I'm waiting for that bigger and more expensive thing?
Absolutely. Don't let, time and all of that sort of and finances be a barrier. Try and find the workaround. Try and look for more of those, inexpensive options. We often place a price tag on a lot of things. And look at your outer circle. Who can help me? Who can support me? Can I set up a play date so my kids can go somewhere for a few hours so that I can maybe go out for a coffee with some girlfriends? Those are the things that you need to start sort of casting your net out a little bit. And this is what we mean when we say, what are those things that you need to have in place in order to make these little goals happen? And by doing that, you are going
Absolutely.
to start to feel more in charge, right? And more in
Mhm.
balance. Because you're making some really positive decisions and your kids see that. So you're teaching them as well by modeling that behavior for them.
Yes, absolutely. Children learn what they live, and especially when you are stressed out because your child is struggling, they might have, some mental illness, or they could have some developmental delays, and just big emotions come up for them. It's really tough to be dealing with this child and trying to support them when you're feeling stressed. And when we deal with the teenagers, for example, they notice when the parent is struggling themselves, or they're wanting me to work on things, but they don't take care of themselves and they get really frustrated. So children do learn what they live, and it should be a family thing. It shouldn't just be this kid needs some help, I'm okay. I think we all can work on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
There's always room for improvement, and maybe by looking at this you can give yourself a little more credit and say, I'm actually doing some really good things. The poll said 50% of you have done something for yourself this week. That's amazing. That's really, really good. So,
Absolutely.
give yourself some credit.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
So how do you think you spend your time versus how you actually spend your time? So when we were talking about introducing the concept of time wasters, this is where we're going. A lot of us really don't have a good handle on how we actually spend our time. I should have asked Michelle to do this slide. She's always talking about poor time management.
Yes.
But it really is number one, especially when we think about our kids as well. We live in a very digital age today, and we see numbers flip. We don't see analog clocks a lot anymore. So learning that sort of passage of time is a skill that we are generally losing right around the board. So anything that you can do to sort of work on sort of gaining that perspective back about passage of time, how long it takes to do things, can really help you a lot better in your routines, and it can help you with your kids for them to be learning that skill as well.
Absolutely. I
So,
think, oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. No,
I
go
think
ahead,
too
Michelle.
with the with the being able to see how much time things take. Do you actually know how much time it takes you to get ready in the morning, or how long it takes you
Mhm.
to drive your kids to school, while you're waiting and waiting, to be able to turn into the parking lot? All that takes time. So we think it's maybe 10 minutes. Maybe we're looking at more like 45 minutes by the time you leave the door and come back in, but we don't pay attention to that, and then we've lost some precious time. So really good point about the perception and paying attention.
Also, I was just noticing a comment down below that somebody said the older I get, the fun things are much smaller or much bigger. A few minutes with a book is wonderful, or a trip away, not much in the middle. So it's trying to find some of those middle grounds. What can, and it's going to be a complex sort of landscape. Sometimes it's going to be little things. Sometimes it might be that big thing. Um, I'm getting older myself, and I know that my time is stretched just as anybody else's is. And you're right. Sometimes a book does it, but sometimes it's like, you know what? I really need to have that week away, because I need to recharge a little bit deeper or at a deeper level. Um, but it can also be that, maybe I'm commuting that day and I put on an audiobook in my car, and maybe that's my middle ground for the day. So it's what really sort of resonates with you. Um, we don't want anybody to walk away feeling like what they're doing isn't enough. It has to work for you.
Hmm. And I like the other
Michelle, I didn't
comment
know,
here.
yes, did you want to
Yeah,
comment on that?
I like the other comment too with the, my son is always telling me to go to bed when I'm tired and
Mm,
that he's fine. And yeah, we tend to do extra things. And do we have to, right? If they say they're fine, they're
exactly.
okay. And what's the message that you're giving your child when you say, no, I'm staying up because I don't think you're okay. And I think that you're going to stay up too late, or you're going to put something in the toaster and there's going to be a fire. So why are you staying up when they're saying, hey, I'm okay, we're doing okay, you go to bed? Sometimes we are so hard on ourselves that we end up doing extra stuff. And when you are tired and when you are stressed, you end up
Hmm.
doing more. So really being aware of that. And, for example, if I'm feeling if I'm stressed out at work, and, it's 5 minutes to 5 and then the phone rings, should I pick it up? Absolutely not, because it's not going to be a 5-minute conversation, and that can wait. That person doesn't need an answer right now. But when I'm stressed, I tend to pick it up, and then I'm staying later, and then I'm doing more work, and then I'm more tired, and it's a bit of a cycle, right? So being able to take your foot off the gas and realize, yeah, I do need to slow down, and I need to listen to my family and even your children. Your children are
Hmm.
noticing things. So that was a great comment. Yeah.
So when we talk about, time wasters, we want you to think about what are those things that you are missing out on. It could be that self-care time that I'm missing time on. Is it time for personal growth? Is it time with my spouse? And again, we've got a little bit of a poll there for you guys to just kind of go ahead, and we'll be interested to see what the results of this are. Social media. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
Hmm.
So you're absolutely right. Social media is one of those things that's kind of controlling our lives a lot these days, and it's controlling our kids' lives. So how do we take that pause? How do we step back from that? Do we have a shut-off time where, we have a charging station somewhere in the home, and everybody surrenders their, laptops and tablets and phones and whatnot, and I have to model that as a parent. I have to, be willing to put my stuff away too. and not have my cell phone be my alarm clock? Can we get an actual alarm clock instead of having the other bells and whistles that are going off all night, and I'm waking up during the night or checking my messages because I got up to go to the bathroom during the night, or my kids are, surfing or talking with somebody on, Snapchat in the middle of the night under the covers because they don't think that we can see what's going on. Having those rules, those house rules, and modeling that for your kids is a really big important piece. And do we put it down when we're having meals instead of bringing devices and things to the table? When we're sitting watching a movie together, put those devices down so that we can actually spend some time talking with one another, because we miss a lot of eye contact because we have our faces in our phones, and we're not really paying attention to what else is going on. Do you want to add to that,
And
Michelle?
well, and I think also, I mean, I'm guilty of the cell phone too, where it's just that mindless surfing, that you're just scrolling,
Mhm.
scrolling, scrolling. What am I really looking at? Am I actually
Yeah.
feeling bored? Would I have, but I didn't plan anything. So now I'm just sitting, I'm exhausted. And then the blue light actually keeps you awake.
Mhm.
So if I don't set my timer, I like the idea of some people actually putting, like you shut your phone down. I'm like in sleep mode, or so nothing can come through after a certain time. So after 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, because I've got this phone on, I've got everything dinging, and then I look at what it is, and I'm doing one thing, and then I hear something dinging, and then I do something else, and I hear something dinging, and then so you're just going back and forth, and you're doing a lot of time wasting. And then on top of that, the light is keeping your brain awake. So can I shut that down? Can I focus on what I need to focus on? But it's sometimes just a habit, and it's, are we avoiding, are we numbing out? Because that's where a lot of this stuff happens, where we do these things because we're numbing ourselves out, or we're trying to avoid life
Mhm.
for a little bit because we are feeling overwhelmed, right? So those little breaks, there is a comment about short breaks being a drop in the bucket, but actually those little things do accumulate. And if you are feeling overwhelmed, then maybe looking at the abundance wheel, or looking at what things need to change, right? Because if we're doing things like,
It's a
um,
cumulative.
yeah, right. And it just keeps
Yeah, it's a
building and
cumulative.
building. Yeah, absolutely. Because we want to be doing things that are helpful coping, and not trying to go into those unhelpful ways to cope. That in the moment, it seems like it's a good idea, but it's a Band-Aid solution for a long-term problem. And
Mm.
you are mentioning, connecting with other
Yeah.
people and texting.
Yeah,
And I think that
absolutely.
that's okay. So that's a little bit different, right? And what we're talking about is time wasters. And if you don't feel like texting with a friend is a time waster, then it's not a time waster. It's a good way to connect. Would even be nicer if you
Mhm.
could have a phone call or FaceTime with them as well, or say,
Yeah.
hey, this is a great chat. Can I give you a call? Or why don't we meet next Tuesday? I've got to drop the kids off at
Yes.
hockey. I'm going to be around the corner. Can I meet you at Timmy's, or can I meet you at, at the
Yes.
at the store or whatever, and let's meet, right?
Yeah.
So it could be your
There's a
prompt
lot of things
too.
that you miss. There's a lot of things you miss out on in the way of personal connection when you
Yeah.
actually meet with somebody, or even if it was a FaceTime, call, because tone of voice, eye contact, there's gestures that are involved in how we communicate with people. Sometimes those things are lost in text messaging. So the support that you're receiving possibly might feel a little bit deeper and a little more validating if you can maybe add to or complement it with an occasional get together or some kind of a face to face.
Absolutely. So, again, you're going to look at this information and take it how you need to. But
Mm,
again, if you don't think it's a time waster and you're connecting with people, that's great. As long as it's something that's making you feel like, yeah, this is the right way to go.
absolutely. So just think about it. It's just something, it's food for thought, to break it down, again, and if I'm using too much time in other ways, then how can I sort of readjust my day to try and start to carve out a little bit of extra for those areas that are in need? There's a few time tracking apps. There's multiple things that are out there. There's a lot of them that are free. We put a couple of them online here for you that you could maybe explore, but seek it out because it might be a way to try and make those devices work for you, and maybe help you along the way.
Mm-hmm. So, there's that fight or flight response when we are stressed. And our automatic reactions do make us sometimes feel better in the moment. It could be that it's a Band-Aid solution for a long-term problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your go-to pattern? What have we always done? And is it really working, right? So right now, this day and age, like back in caveman days, you see a mountain lion, you either run, you might shut down, or you might hide, or you might freeze, just play
Mm-hmm.
dead, right? So your stress is still, you're still reacting like it's a physical threat. Your body still reacts that way. So there's that fight, flight, or freeze response. But most of our stress is not a physical reaction, but our body is still reacting. So how do you react? Are you avoiding? We were talking about earlier, avoiding and numbing to deal with things. Do we withdraw and shut down? Or is it like my head pops off and I'm panicking? And are these things really helping you in the moment? And that's kind of that snow globe situation. Some people are acting out, some people shut down, but it's about self-awareness and knowing what's triggering me, how am I reacting, and is this reaction really helping me, or is it just causing more stress?
I just noticed the comment below about somebody going out for coffee. If they said they were going out for coffee with a friend, their child would see it as self-care versus the mom, why are you on the phone? So go out for the
Mhm.
coffee. I think
Absolutely,
that
I
would be a
love
great
that.
idea. It's
Yeah,
great
yeah.
modeling. Great modeling.
Hmm.
So again, some of this unhelpful coping versus, helpful coping, we get caught in this cycle, where we're denying, we just get so swamped in the drain, that sometimes we even just deny that things are actually going on, or we lose an awareness of what actually is going on, and we have to start to peel away those layers of the onion, if you will. We get caught in wishful thinking, and sometimes it's that grandiose ideas, I wish it was, or the grass is greener on the other side. Instead of thinking about the here and the now, we get caught up in stuff going on from the past that we can't change, and worrying about anticipating stuff in the future that hasn't even arrived yet. Thinking the worst, right? Catastrophizing. We take some smaller things and we build them up into something that becomes more of a tornado or a big storm. So again, taking that pause, stepping back, sort of allowing your thoughts to settle, can make a big difference in turning down the volume on that. Blaming. It's a big one, especially in communication when it's tough sometimes to accept that maybe we've contributed, or maybe we've made a mistake, or maybe we misjudged something. It's easier sometimes to blame others, and when we start blaming and we get caught in that game, problem-solving ability goes right down the drain. If you're numbing things out, I know Michelle talked a little bit about this. Yeah, of course. Is it okay to maybe, have a glass of wine with friends every now and again? Absolutely. But if you're sitting down and numbing out all the time, and using that as a way to cope, it might be time to maybe seek some other professional help. And if you're avoiding and zoning out, again, this is where I'm not present. I'm not paying attention. I'm not noticing what else is going on in the room. I'm not noticing my kids, my partners, my friends. I'm just kind of starting to sort of self-isolate myself.
Hmm.
Do you want to go
So
into
let's
some of the other?
change it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
yeah,
change
change
it
it
up with
up.
some helpful solutions. And you can actually take a look at what you are doing. And this is not a judgment call. This is just about that self-awareness. And I do notice that every time my friends ask me to go out, I say no, and I try to find reasons not to. I'm
Mm.
actually not spending time with my partner anymore. We end up in separate rooms watching TV separately, and when we come together, we're not really
Mm.
connecting. So how do we build that back up again? So seeking solutions, because as Sue was saying earlier, we're really good at complaining, aren't we? We could sit here for
Yeah.
hours just complaining. But the complaining is one thing, and that's okay, and that's just being human, but it's taking the next step and saying this is an ongoing
Yes,
thing. So
absolutely.
what are some solutions? And having a friend or being able to look at that abundance wheel and coming up with a plan or sitting down with your partner, or I mean, some of your kids are very intuitive from what you've already said. They may have some great ideas as to how do we start building some fun into the house? How do we get organized a little bit so we're not tripping over things where we have to push things out of the way to sit on the couch to actually have some family time. What are those solutions? So, taking that time, asking for help. Asking for help is really tough sometimes for parents. Moms are horrible at that. Or what I find too is that sometimes moms are like, well, you've put them to bed the wrong way, or this is no, I'm the only one that can do it this way, or I'm the only one that can do it right. You got to stop doing that. As long as the children are in bed, it doesn't matter what pajamas they're wearing or what bedtime story they had, right? So we have to step back a little bit and take our foot off the gas and forgive yourself. We're really hard on ourselves. Set some priorities. What's really important? Because if I had $1 for every time I heard, I don't have time, and I've tried that and it doesn't work, I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be on an island, right? So we hear it a lot, and it is stressful. Being a parent is hard, and it's not Instagrammable. There's a lot of moments that are not Instagrammable, and depending on the age of your children and depending on what they're struggling with, it can seem very chaotic. But if you do not set yourself up as a priority, things will continue to pile. And staying in the moment is really about mindfulness. And mindfulness is huge. You can look up mindful meditation, mindfully eating, mindfully walking, just being in the moment. We're always thinking about what's ahead or what just happened. So, when was the last time you just sat down and actually enjoyed a meal and didn't have a TV going or things like that, where have you eaten something and then was like, did I even taste that? Because I'm not being mindful.
Yes.
So many studies on gratitude. Do you have a gratitude journal? It could be a practice that you do with your family, that you say 2 things that you're grateful for. I'm grateful that it's not snowing today. I'm grateful that I have a great job, or that I have access to some services just around the corner. And being aware of your feelings. We weren't brought up to actually have emotion. We were brought up to be happy all the time, and talking about emotion was not something that the majority of us knew how to do. So being aware of our emotion, and Dr. Siegel talks about name it to tame it. So being able to label my emotion will actually, they say, stats say that the research says that it actually will help calm you down a little bit, just to be able to label it. And then what am I doing to tame it? So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to take a break. I'm going to go outside and get some fresh air. So what is it that you're feeling, and what can I do to turn the volume down on it? So these are just some helpful strategies, but brainstorm some different ways to help yourself out.
Absolutely. So it's not always just about um, learning how to feel better. It's about getting better at learning how to feel.
Yes.
Did you want to go through these, Michelle, these
Yeah, we're going to
scenarios?
give you a scenario.
Yeah.
So today I woke up to screaming and crying. The 15-year-old slept in and couldn't find their gym bag. The 10-year-old and 8-year-old were fighting over the last morsel of breakfast cereal. There was a sink full of dishes and the dog had gotten into the garbage that my partner was supposed to take out last night. My head was pounding and I know we were going to be late. My morning never works out and I didn't even have time for a shower. What does that morning look like? If anybody can relate to that, maybe bits and pieces of it. So you have this kind of morning, you have this kind of a situation. In the moment, we're in a snow globe, but can we step back and say, how can we move forward? What are some solutions here? What are some red flags that you're seeing in this comment from this made-up mom and this made-up situation that we did? But how would you help this parent out? Or if you were this parent, what are some things that you could do moving forward to change your day up? So we're feeling overwhelmed. We've got some negative thinking going on. You know, my mornings never work out. This is always chaos in my home. So we've got that always and never thinking, which is a thinking trap. Well, if you're thinking unhelpful thoughts, then you're going to feel defeated and out of control. So what are you going to do? Yell, scream, give up. You know what? Everybody stay home. I'm just not going to take anybody anywhere, right? So that's sometimes we get stuck in that unhelpful cycle. So if you are feeling like you're stuck in that unhelpful cycle, here are some tips to help you through that.
Okay, so you're going to work on that forgiveness piece. You know, we don't really do a really good job at having compassion for ourselves. We all have a past, we all have a story, and part of self-care is having some self-compassion, and being able to, you know, give yourself that pat on the back that says, you know, I am a survivor. And I'm coping. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm reaching out. I'm doing all of those things that we've talked about, asking for help, planning ahead, knowing when those struggle spots are and preparing for them is going to help you feel more in charge of that situation. And not being afraid to step out of your comfort zone. You know, there are other things out there. Try something new. You know, they say the definition of insanity is keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So we need to step out of our box. We need to, you know, try something new, explore it. If your kids are old enough, work with them, do it together, come up with generating some ideas and making that self-care be a priority. You matter. Regardless of any past messages or old, you know, sort of little voices that are floating around in your head that say that you are not, you are. Never question that because you have to be that one that is taking care of yourself so that you can be there to take care of the other people in your life. And change that action step. Just put one foot in front of the other. Just try it. It doesn't have to be big. It can be small. It can only be a few minutes a day. If that's where you begin, that's where you start. And make that action step. Make it be important for you.
Yeah, so by changing your thinking, giving yourself a little bit of a break. So if I do have that feeling of feeling overwhelmed, instead I can take a deep breath and prioritize what needs to be done right now. I can feel calmer and feel more in charge. And then I'm going to get back on track, right? So that morning routine that we put together that maybe has slid behind the door, we're going to pull that out and say, okay, the 15-year-old is struggling. The two kids are fighting. I feel like my head is going to pop off. I got to take a minute, right? That diaphragmatic breathing, taking that deep breath lowers the cortisol in your brain and you can make better choices. And when you're making better choices, we can take a break. We can say, hey, we're having a bad morning. Let's do a restart. How can we get our day going? And let's start the day a little bit different, right? So again, you fall off the wagon, you get back on. So making a
So
positive
we're down to
change, make a
make a
list of things.
positive change. Yeah. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Michelle.
yeah. Yeah, so make a list of things in my life I want and I want to keep that I like and I want to keep. So some of you have already done things this week. What are those good things that you've been doing? What are some healthy choices that you've made? Maybe just even tuning in today was a healthy choice for you, that you're prioritizing yourself. Things that you'd like to change, right? So write some of this stuff down, sit down with a friend maybe, or sit down with your partner and kind of work on this and put it out there. And how are you going to make it happen? So I am going to make a plan. I'm going to put it out on Facebook that I'd like to start walking. Does anybody want to join me? What are those things that you can do and what are the steps? But we need to start with a plan and just start with one thing. So we want you to take this exercise afterwards, and this is your homework to work on.
So we have some resources for you guys. These are just some websites that we thought might be useful for you guys to explore. The Big White Wall, the Parents for Children's of Mental Health is a peer support group for families. Bounce Back is some online counseling for 15 years and over. You do need a doctor's referral to participate in that, but it is online. Understood.org is fantastic. Michelle, do you want to talk a little bit about connected parenting?
Yeah, so understood.org is for ADHD, but we really enjoy that they have free webinars and things like that. And they've just got great strategies for dealing with behaviors. And Connected Parenting is Jennifer Kaleri. I just really enjoy her books. She's a local author. She's from Toronto. She's a master's of social work, and she has this calm technique that you can watch on YouTube, which is really helpful if you're trying to connect with your child. So, you know, the top 3 are for you guys for more about your own self-care and taking care of your own mental health and feeling supported. A lot of people do feel alone, especially when you are struggling with children with different mental illnesses and difficulties and difficult behaviors. And the last 2 are just some parenting resources that can be really helpful to you.
I was just wanting to comment. Somebody had made a comment about research and the breathing techniques and how that can sort of, make a difference. And I just wanted to say that we only have 3 rhythms in our body, and it's our brain waves, and it's our heart and our lungs. So when our breathing gets rapid, then our thinking kind of goes haywire, and our thoughts are running sort of rampant, and then our heart starts to beat fast. So the thing that pulls all of those together is our breathing. When we take that time to slow our breathing down properly and do that diaphragmatic breathing, our thoughts have to settle. It physiologically just has to happen, and our heart rate starts to lower. And when we start to feel like our heart rate lowers, we're not feeling such of an anxious response going on in our body. So it does all work very, very much in sync with one another. So lots of people kind of say, oh, that breathing stuff doesn't work for me. But take some time to really practice it and find the right breathing technique that works for you. And just give it a try. Again, step out of your box, try something new. Maybe it didn't work for you in the past, and maybe it's time to try it once again.
Absolutely.
These are some resources for us at the hospital. So the MCH Community ED site is where you can find the courses that Michelle and I offer, and you'll also see a copy of the Growing Together guide posted there. And then there are 2 links, one for the hospital and one for our Family Resource Center. Do you want to talk a little bit about CES?
Yeah, so this is just us to come into community education. It's free. You do not need a referral. You can just register online. Once you've registered, then you're automatically in a group. The only ones that we do need to check in with you is our No Fear program for children and our Stress Less for teens. Those are the only 2 that you have to make sure you get a phone call from us. And then we've got other ones coming up, like Burnt Out for parents, parenting your anxious child, parenting your child with ADHD, managing meltdowns, things that helps with collaborative problem solving. And then we've got workshops that are 90 minutes that you can come in, emotions on dealing with big emotions, how to validate your child, all things to build connection and understanding. And, come by yourself, come with a friend. We try to have them all over the community. And even though webinars are really nice and you can do it from your home, sometimes it is nice to come out to groups to say, hey, I'm not the only one that's struggling. There's other people in the room. We've had some parents really connect afterwards as well. And I think it helps to be able to ask some questions in face-to-face environments.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So we just did a screenshot for you of the community education page. So when you log into that MCH Community ED, this is the where it'll take you to. And then if you scroll down, you'll see that on the bottom left-hand side is the link to the Growing Together guide, which houses all of the free community resources that are available to the public in the Hamilton area. And on the right-hand side is registration for the courses that Michelle and I do out of the community education service with the Ron Joyce. So feel free to explore that, and we would be most happy to see you guys. And thank you so much for having us tonight. It was a really great experience.